clip from that film of you crying after finishing having sex with all those men has been viewed millions of times on different platforms.
Great.
Why'd you say great?
Just because I'm an ugly crier.
Oh.
Hello, guys. If I get one more notification, I'm just so popular. Ew. Hi, guys. Welcome back. I actually don't know how to do intros, I'm not going to lie. Today we're going to be talking about Lily Phillips. Now, if you don't know who Lily Phillips is, it's your lucky day, because I'm the presenter and I'm here to present you with the facts, okay? Lily Phillips is a young OF woman who got a lot of traction through saying and doing some pretty crazy only stunts. If you don't know what only is, then truly you're lost, okay? But only is a website where you can post nude pictures and videos of yourself or you engaging in a sexual activity for a set price monthly. It's kind of like Netflix. It's kind of like, it's not Breaking Bad, it's Breaking Bussy. It's Breaking Bussy. Yeah, I don't know. I tried to be funny and it didn't work. So yeah, only is basically just this website where it's like Netflix, but for videos of yourself and pictures of yourself. And it can range from just nude pictures or you being finger blasted in all holes. So it really depends. And Lily Phillips is one of the top OF creators right now, alongside Bonnie Blue and apparently Katie Robertson, but that's up for debate. And the whole reason she has gained so much fame is because she did the bunking 100 men in one day challenge, and then she did the 1,000 men challenge. And there was a documentary made about it by this talented documentary guy. I'll put a clip in. And it kind of showed Lily crying and saying that it was a lot to mentally process and that she was kind of scarred by it. And yeah, it was a very disturbing watch, and it kind of reignited all my thoughts and feelings about why the industry is. And she's recently gone on to do an interview with the BBC, which I thought was low-key crazy, like the BBC out of all people, but sure, BBC, get it? Sorry, it's not funny. I'm just trying to crack a joke because I'm actually mentally not okay today. Let's go.
To give people a little bit of background to you, you've said you had a picture-perfect childhood, you've got amazing parents, you've had a very happy upbringing.
Yeah. So my parents are both together. I have one older brother, and we just had the perfect upbringing in a little village. No kind of past trauma or anything like that. My parents raised us perfectly.
I don't really like this narrative that in order to go into the industry, in order to end up in the industry, it has to be because of your childhood. Now, I do think that there are probably factors and there are probably multiple instances where women have had bad childhoods, trauma, stuff happened to them that has resulted in them eventually ending up in the work industry. I do think that there probably is instances of that. But pushing this narrative that in order for a woman to be in the industry, they have to have been a traumatized child is quite weird to me. And I'm slowly unpacking why as I'm speaking, because I know there's probably a reason. I know there's a reason why I find it strange. I think if I had to just take a jump and guess as to why I think it's strange, I think because it's taking blame off of the real reason why we have and the real reason why women can be as successful as they can in pornography, I think is wholly down to the fact that we are in a society where women are viewed as objects more than men are. I would say that is why women end up in the industry. Point case example, Mia Khalifa being approached by a man saying how beautiful she looks. Fast forward a few weeks, she's making videos in a studio. I would say it's not necessarily always because of your upbringing, and when you say that in order for a worker to be doing work, they have to have been traumatized. I don't think that's actually fair. And also, as I've been considering recently, there are women that feel as if they enjoy it and it's something that they want to do. For example, Lily Phillips. Now, we can still argue that there are outside influences that make you feel like you want to actually be doing it. But at the end of the day, I'm not one to tell people that they're not enjoying it. If you say you're enjoying it, you're enjoying it. It's not my place to say. But there are people out there that do enjoy doing work. I don't think that necessarily means that it isn't inherently harmful as a whole. It's something I've been thinking about a lot recently is, I guess, the fact that there are people out there that say that they like doing it, and it's never going to be my place to say that they don't enjoy doing it. I can only give my opinion on the fact that I don't think it's good for women as a whole. That doesn't mean to say that there aren't positives in it for other people in their eyes, I guess is what we'll say. I don't know if any of that made sense, but it's just some side quest rant I've been thinking about recently because I've had a lot of very annoyed people. Sorry, this is a long rant, but I've had a lot of very annoyed people recently and some, quite frankly, horrible messages from some people accusing me of hating women, which is very hurtful considering I have to explain that. And I guess assuming that I have a very deep hatred towards workers because of the videos that I make, and I can completely understand why a lot of people may perceive that about me because of my content being a lot about workers, but that is really not the case. And if you are watching my videos and thinking that I hate the women in work, you are greatly misinformed. I hate women such as Bonnie Bloom who encourage it and say disgusting things about barely legal girls. And I hate the way they approach, I guess, selling their page. But do I hate them purely because they're in the industry? No. If we could have a world where everybody in the work industry was safe and treated with respect, and it didn't have an outside effect on just women who aren't doing work, then there would be less of a problem. Sorry. Continue. That was a big rant, but it's been on my mind.
You say your parents are really supportive of what you do, and people just don't believe you when you say that.
Yeah, so it's tricky really because they were super supportive when I went into OnlyFans. They understand that it makes me really happy. You know, I'm not hurting anyone, I'm safe. So they thought, kind of, why not? It was only till I took things to the next level and started doing more and these kind of events that's when they don't quite support me doing these events, but they support me.
Yeah, again, I was having a big, long think yesterday about OnlyFans and whether or not that is something that is, I guess, arguably ethical, because that's the argument that I receive a lot. And I just unfortunately cannot back down on the fact that I disagree that there is such thing as ethical. Now, a lot of people will hit me with, well, OnlyFans is a lot better for women because they can make their own content, they are in charge, and I do agree that it is a lot better than being in mainstream porn where you are like thrown into the meat grinder and spewed up and mistreated and abused. But I still don't think that OnlyFans is considered ethical. Only OFMs, managers exists where they take a ungodly cut. When you're the one when it's your body, there shouldn't be such thing as an OFM, an OnlyFans manager. The whole point of OnlyFans is your account. So I wouldn't say that OnlyFans is something that should be necessarily, oh yeah, like that's fine, that's perfectly safe, and that's not harming anyone, because that's what she said her parents are saying. It is still harming people. The act of having a transactional kind of relationship with women where you can buy their consent, I would argue does harm women. It does. I'm sorry to say it, and I'm not blaming her for that, nor am I blaming workers in general, because we're in a patriarchal society, right? Like, the option is there because men objectify women. I know a lot of people are going to get mad at me for saying that because a lot of people saying, okay, you always blame men. But we're just talking about the facts here, right? That's not me saying all men, but it's just me saying that you cannot argue that we're in a patriarchal society, and therefore I don't think OnlyFans can ever be ethical. I don't think selling your body as a woman can ever be ethical because you're selling your consent, right? And consent can't be bought. Sorry, that's just not possible. So to say it's not harming anyone is not really true. I mean, I literally can't post now online at all showing skin. Like, even now, my nips are there and I'm conscious. I'm like, if I show them, I'm going to get people calling me a hypocrite. I am sexualized and objectified, and I have people put my face on Reddit and talk about how they want to feel my heart with their cock. And I don't do content. I think the problem is that it's becoming so normalized. Men are becoming so used to accessing this material online. They just don't know how to view women as normal people. They don't know how to view women as people. People can't see me show my skin or my cleavage on my Instagram without thinking that I'm a hypocrite because they think it's the same. You know the amount of comments I get on my YouTube community posts where people say, wow, you have literally become what you criticize, and they have a go at me because my cleavage is there. As if I've ever said that women can't be creatures, that women can't have sexuality, that I can't, as a woman, enjoy having tits and feel sexy having tits. I have no problem with that. I have a problem with transactional sexual relationships where men can think that they can buy consent. Because if the money wasn't there, then there's no consent, which to me feels wrong. Shoot me, you know?
Love me and have my back. That's kind of how I describe it.
And when you say they don't support you doing these events, what events are you talking about?
So I do big events where the members of public can come to and join in. So I have with quite a lot of gentlemen or women. And yeah, these events for all ages above 18 for anyone to kind of show up.
And can you explain why they don't support that?
I think they just don't find it necessary. It's not something they would have chosen for me to do. I don't think any parent wakes up and goes, well, you know, I want my kid to be a porn star when they're older. But they understand that it makes me happy. So they...
Something I really struggle with when I listen to people talk about how doing makes them happy is that I hear you, right? I'm listening to you as a worker. That makes you happy, right? But the reality is you get paid to do that. You get paid you are a millionaire, right? So is it having with that amount of men in one go makes you happy? Or is it because you get to have for a living and in your eyes you think there's nothing wrong with that? So you get paid to do that, therefore it seems like all positives. But what just haunts my mind when I see this is that you cannot argue the undeniable pattern of stars and only people coming out saying that they were traumatized by the industry. And what really irritates me with this argument is not only that people think that I'm a prude and that I don't like women having sex and that I hate workers, because whatever, I've heard that so many times, but is that people don't allow me to bring up real women that have been in the industry, real examples of women that have suffered in the industry, as they think that that's like me only listening to one side of the only and work people. It's like, well, you're only listening to the people that back your argument. Well, I listen to these women and I form my opinions on the industry because I've heard so many women talk about how they were just chewed up in the industry. And I'm not just talking about mainstream. I'm talking about how women say they felt after doing OF. And like, I find it really irritating when people say to me, like, not only are they like, you are misogynistic, but then they say, it's always the same. Listen to workers, listen to them. And I'm like, you listen to them. You listen to them. I am listening to them. I'm listening to you. And I appreciate that you're having positive experiences. I'm not denying that there aren't positive experiences for some people. I am not denying that. I'm not saying that work is all doom and gloom. There are some probably very happy people out there that do their job. That's fine. That is fine. But I am listening to the people that are saying, I hated it. I felt objectified. I was used. I was forced into the industry. I had a terrible experience. It wasn't worth it. I was misled. Management took all my money. I'm listening to them too. I'm listening to everybody. But people don't like it when I listen intensely to the women that have come out of it feeling the way they have, feeling negative. And the reason why I listen to these women so much is because their stories align with the research that has been done on the industry. Their stories align with the research that has been done against pornography. I'm losing my mind. In case you couldn't tell, I've had some really horrible DMs recently that are completely just going like, ooh, Kay's videos in one, out the other, and just completely like being nasty for one and purposefully misinterpreting what I'm saying, calling me a swerve and saying that like I just hate women and that it's come from a place of insecurity. And it really annoys me. It annoys me and it hurts me because these people sit there and they say, what have you done for women? And I'm like, are you, okay. So now we're going to make assumptions about what I've done for women. Okay. And you're going to tell me that I'm not a feminist because I am speaking out for a more unpopular opinion about work, you know? Okay, it's my opinion and that's fine. And some people think it's stupid. That's fine. But I'm allowed to have that opinion. I'm not stopping you saying that you enjoy sex work, for example, and that's fine. But I'm not talking about you then. Like, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the women that have not enjoyed it, the women that have been objectified, the women, it just really annoys me. Continue.
They understand that I am an adult and a woman and I can choose to do what I want.
Your generation, Gen Z, has grown up with porn being easily available on smartphones. How do you think that has influenced you?
Honestly, I probably watched porn first when I was maybe 11.
Okay, this is the thing. Another thing that I want to go on to talk about. Sorry, this is a really ranty video. If you're not enjoying it, click off. I don't care. I agree that a lot of the time I am very opinionated about the industry, and I can see why a lot of people have a problem with that because they think, hey, well, what do you want from it? And I've been thinking about this a lot recently. I've been thinking about this a lot, and it's something I haven't spoke about yet, so I'm going to speak about it. I agree that workers and people in the industry are not kept safe. They're not. They're not kept safe at all. And we cannot simply just ban the industry. I think if we were to ban the industry, it would be a lot more unsafe for women everywhere. I can agree with that. But I do think that something should be done to regulate it. In other words, censor it, as people will say, oh, you want to censor it? I do think we should censor it. I think we should have a higher regulation. I think we should have a whole separate entity then, if we are going to keep the industry legalized, which I think is a good idea. Well, legalize it, the parts that aren't legalized, to keep women safe, because the last thing we want is for women to feel like they can't come forward and talk about exploitation or what they've been through because what they've been doing is illegal. That's a terrible idea, right? It's like drugs and how like people can't report stuff involved with drugs, which results to more crime because it's, drugs are illegal, right? You get what I'm trying to say. So I do agree that like something should be done. And if we're going to start anywhere, I think children should not be able to access porn. Is my biggest opinion. I just don't know how you would do that. I don't know how you would do that. And I also think that only should, if it's going to exist, there should be no such thing as only managers. Or there needs to be more education and more help for the women that are approached by only managers, so the girls know, don't sign contracts that you don't know what you're signing because you are going to be exploited. Now, my personal opinion is that I think the world would be a better place without the industry, without porn. I can't change how I feel about that. That's how I feel. But I acknowledge that that's never going to happen. So it's about being realistic. And there needs to be then measurements in place to keep women more safe. But I also know that that's really, really hard. So it's not really that simple. And it's just, I guess, something that the biggest thing that jumps out to me is her saying, I watched when I was 11, which a lot of people did. They watched way too young. And I think that's one of the biggest problems. People growing up with induced erectile dysfunctions, boys growing up not knowing what consent is, boys being taught that women will respond to violence in the bedroom with nothing but pleasure. I think it's really brain-numbingly stupid for people to argue that porn isn't dangerous. It is. I think it's even dangerous for fully grown men and fully grown women, actually. But if we're going to, I guess, come down to tackling the root of the issue nowadays, the best thing to probably do would be to have better regulation, better rules, better laws in place to protect the women in the industry. Because we're never going to abolish it, which I think we should, but we can't. So I guess it's about being realistic. As my next rant over. Do continue, editor.
I've always knew it was a thing, and I always thought it was very normal to watch. And I personally don't think is a bad thing in moderation. I just think it's when younger adults have a lot of access to it, that's when it does become a problem.
But this is the argument that people always make to me. It's not the it's your relationship with it. What? That's so stupid. Am I the only one that thinks that's stupid? Would you say then that having a video filmed, right, of a woman being right by like 5 men, and they're like slapping her in the face and choking her and calling her a and everyone's getting off to that, and the woman's so happy and enjoying herself and she's being covered in would you say that the act of that happening, when there's a man filming it, a man in control of the scene, the woman's not making very much money. Are you not saying that is that inherently fine? Is that fine? Is that okay? Because as long as you're personally consuming it, not that often, then, well, your body isn't affected, so it's fine. There are multiple aspects to pornography that make it inherently terrible. Not just whether you've got a good relationship with or not. I think that's it's like ethical. That's an oxymoron. Like, what do you mean a good relationship with it? You don't know what you're watching because there's no regulation of content. A lot of the stuff that people have watched is actual children on. Let's not forget that. So I don't think you can argue it's just your relationship with it. I think if we were in a universe where men and women were genuinely equal, by all accounts, I think watching people have sex on a screen would be, I still don't think good, but it would be a lot less dangerous for women.
But if you started watching it at 11,
Yeah.
I mean, that is so young.
Yeah.
Can you describe how it has influenced you and your brain and your outlook on?
You know what? It actually made me really confident and learn a lot.
Oh, brother, give it a rest. I'm sorry, that's not true. Did it like let's all be real for a sec. It made you confident, did it? Well, you'll be the only 11-year-old that accessed online and was made confident. And what a message to send out to the world is that, oh, you can become confident watching porn. That's what so many, I have a lot of pro people say that to me. What about representation? What about positivity? There are so many other ways we should be learning to be positive and learn about that isn't positivity, okay? Did you know, fun fact, they actually did studies on men's brains when they watch, and it turns out that when you watch, there's a part of the brain that's actively in use that kind of lights up, and it's the same part of the brain that's used when viewing objects, right? So if we take that into account and we look at being positive, who's it positive for? Who's being positively impacted by usage? That's a question for you all to ponder on. Who is positively impacted? Because my guess would be the people that consume and have no clue what it does to the brain, no clue what it does to the body, the people that deny that induced erectile dysfunctions exist, the people that think everything's okay in moderation, fools.
A lot of things. I mean, that's mostly how I learned through porn. And I do think it has a positive effect on me, just in terms of like understanding things a little bit more.
Right.
And what the does that say about our country, man? Our dead classes, you know, you learn stuff from, holy man. Right, another thing, I grew up watching porn. I watched porn when I was around the same age, maybe 12, maybe a little bit older. And I can tell you right now, having never had and barely knowing what sex was other than man puts penis into, I can tell you right now, I didn't have the mental capacity to seek out porn that people will describe as ethical because it's two couples at home making love. Most people that discover at a younger age, they don't just stumble across what many interesting people would describe as ethical. You come across the mainstream stuff, right? I don't want to hear any arguments like, no, I didn't. Okay, good for you. But most people, they go on whatever website they go on and they find whatever they find. And then you're a very young person, so you seek out more and more, you watch more and more, and chances are you're not seeking out stuff that is an active representation of what it is and what bodies look like and what real women's vaginas look like, what real men's look like. You cannot say at 11 years old you had the capacity to consume that content with the knowledge that you now have as an adult. That's my argument. That's the basis of why children should not be getting education from porn. Imagine, I mean, we don't have to imagine, because God knows how many children are doing that, because people like this, oh, it's positive, oh, off. So jarring to hear. I'm getting so agitated, guys. Sorry about this. It's going to be a long video.
What we see in online can be extreme. Is not normal.
It depends what type of you're watching. That's what I would say.
Okay.
My rebuttal to that is every form of bar gay men on gay men is objectifying women, right? And this is another argument people have. What about gay? then there's evidence that not all is misogynistic. First of all, I don't think anybody has said that all is misogynistic, because obviously there is gay, right? Cool. But gay doesn't, just because it's man on man doesn't mean there aren't problems with that. There's still problems with usage. There's still problems with over-consuming. There's still problems with portraying themes in porn that aren't true to whether it's gay men or women. So it still doesn't make me think, oh yeah, that's okay then. Yeah.
Reflect on the fact that you had access to this porn, and we're looking at it from the age of 11, and not just you, any Gen Z who's got a smartphone. Does that suggest to you that maybe your generation has been let down by politicians or the tech companies or even parents?
I think it's hard because this is a part of life. And
Yeah, this is a part of life. So as we should be taught about these things, I think. And I think we should be taught... Who was taught about masturbation as a child? Nobody. Nobody's taught about masturbation. I think we do need better education. I think we need more conversations between schools and children at an appropriate age. But we also need parents, I think, to take more involvement with their children's phones. And I know a lot of people don't like that. And it comes to a certain point where you have to let go, right? And it's just down to the big bad world to engulf your child and spit them out and turn them into a freak, right? But I think what you can do, again, I'm not a parent, so I'm not lecturing parents, but I'm speaking from the perspective of someone who did watch a lot of as a child. The best thing you can do is educate your child. Tell your child about free. Obviously at an appropriate age, let's not be weird, right? Tell them about what they're likely to see and that it's not real. You don't have to go into detail, but inform them, educate them. Teach your sons about consent. Teach girls that they don't have to do whatever it is that they're shown in. More education is definitely necessary. I just think in general, even about the industry itself, even about what it does to the brain. Why don't they do that? You know, I think if we had a lot more alertness to the effects of the industry, and we listened again to women who have been in the industry, and we made, I guess, more informed decisions about what is normal and what's not for your kid to be viewing. And I don't think that any parent out there knowingly lets their child watch. I think we all agree with that. But the statistics are that a huge fat portion of children are watching and their parents don't even know. And their parents genuinely think, oh, my kid would never. So I think, education and better laws in place would be, I guess, the only and best solution at this point.
Billie Eilish is the same age as you. She says she started watching at 11. You've just told us the same age. She says it destroyed her brain. Could it have destroyed yours?
I think it really depends on how frequent you're watching it. I see people nowadays who watch too much too soon and they become very desensitized to it, and that means then they have to watch more and more extreme stuff. I personally wasn't like that. I didn't watch it often enough at all. So I don't think it's destroyed me personally, but I do believe it's destroyed people my age, 100%.
Can I ask, do you see yourself as a feminist?
I do, yes, yeah.
In what way?
Well, obviously, a feminist means you want equality between men and women. And that is honestly what I'm striving for. I mean, it shows...
This is a difficult one because I don't think it's fair to sit there and say you're not a feminist. I don't think I have the place to do that because it's just not my place. I would argue that it is inherently anti-feminist. That is inherently anti-feminist, I'll say. By definition, by law, is the subordination of women in... So it's the depiction of the subordination of women itself. Not always, but as we know it, for the majority, is the dehumanization of women. I've got a buck. Let me get you something. Let me get you a book. Welcome. The law's definition of is concrete, not abstract. It is defined as the graphic, explicit subordination of women in pictures and/or words that includes women's presented, dehumanized as objects, things, or commodities, or women presented as objects who enjoy pain or humiliation, or women presented as objects who experience pleasure in being, or women presented as objects tied up or cut or mutilated or bruised or physically hurt, or women presented in postures or positions of submission, civility, or display, or women's body parts, including but not limited to breasts, buttocks, exhibited in such a way that women are reduced to those parts, or women presented as by nature, or women presented being penetrated by objects or animals, or women presented in scenarios of degradation, injury, torture, shown as filthy or inferior, bleeding, bruised, or hurt in a context that makes these conditions. If men, children, or used in any of the same ways, the material also meets the definition of. The subordination of women and women being inferior is inherently not feminist because, like you just said, you want women to be striving for equality. Now, I also have to acknowledge, however, that workers, people that get involved in women specifically, I would argue are victims to the industry. A lot of women, not all of women, I think a lot of women do know what they're getting themselves into, and I'm not insulting the intelligence of the women that know what they're getting themselves into. But a lot of women, I genuinely just believe, don't see the bigger picture. That's just my honest opinion. And even if you do see the bigger picture and you're happy doing that, it doesn't abolish the fact that many other women are affected by the industry. And we as a society, I don't think can be shamed into talking out against an industry that is harming so many people, all because there are some people out there who enjoy it. You apply that to any other situation where there are a group of people being harmed. It's insane. That isn't meaning to say that I'm insulting the intelligence of the people who do decide to do it. I do, however, think that choice feminism is very cancerous, to be honest. Having the choice to do something isn't inherently feminist at all. But that's just my opinion. What the do I know?
Being in this industry, how we don't have that yet. And that is something I'd love to get to.
A lot of feminists, not all, but some are anti. They argue that is the antithesis of feminism. Let me give you a couple of quotes. It's part of the marketing of. Germaine Greer said that. Gloria Steinem said it has nothing to do with love, with erotica. It is violence. Are they wrong? And if so, why?
I think what people don't realise is there's so much different kinds of. There is the I make where it's with average guys. It's very normal, you know.
And again, I hear that, but do you think the men think about that? Do you think the men are thinking that you're having normal loving? No, they're like, it's a joke to them. It's just busting a nut to many of them. It's not, again, it's always the same argument. Well, what about the nicer that is portrayed? Well, first of all, that's not that common. It's not that popular either. I mean, look at the top categories. Just literally go and look. If it's not fetishizing races, it's fetishizing barely legal teens or fetishizing, right? Which people will argue is a kink, and I can't kink shame that. So I wouldn't agree that you can just say, well, there's better out there, because people aren't consuming that. Well, some people are, obviously, but that's not the problem here. And even if you are enjoying it, even if you are, consenting to it, you're still being objectified. You're still selling your body. I feel like I'm going insane.
I set my phone up in the corner of the room and proceed to have sex with the guy, and it's as if the camera isn't there. And I would like to say that is relatable, and that's not something that would damage your brain, because that is...
The objectification of women, full stop, is damaging. And as we've just established, a lot of people like to say, but it's not the that's damaging, it's your relationship with it, which partly, yeah, I guess, but you're still being objectified. You're still the object of desire in the people's mind watching it. And that's scientifically proven. Like, there's no arguing with that. And also, setting up the camera and getting by 100 men in one go is not natural or normal. So that's not true either. Like, the reason you are famous is because you did that big gangbang where you cried afterwards. You are famous for having with 101 men in a day. It was documented in a YouTube film, which has had 10 million views. And for those who haven't seen it, we literally see a queue of men, complete strangers, waiting to go into a bedroom to have sex with you for an allotted 5 minutes. We don't see their faces because they don't want to be on camera. And when we hear the voice of one or two, their voices have been disguised because they don't want to be identified.
Yeah.
You've been asked many times why you did it. You say it's because you enjoy it, and you've explained today that why you do what you do. What do you think of those men who turned up that day?
I think of them as equal guys like me who are also enjoy and honestly just wanted to have a good time.
This is the problem. Like, People ask, like, Kate, why do you keep talking about these OF women? Because this is the message. The message they're portraying is that it's okay to queue in a line to a woman that you don't know after she's had sex with loads of other men and is going to be physically uncomfortable, hence why she was crying afterwards. That's normal behaviour. And nothing screams, I'm being objectified, more than having a man queue for you like you're a product. Holy glaze, man.
They're obviously sons, brothers, boyfriends. Like, is it okay for them to turn up that day?
I would say as long as they're not cheating on their partner, then yeah.
And what do you think of those guys? What were they like?
A lot of them were lovely, honestly. Just very, very regular guys. We had lawyers, we had policemen, we had, people flying from Sweden.
That's the terrifying part. The people that actually queued to have sex with a woman who's been by already like 50 men that day are men of the public. Police officers, people in charge, people with jobs that are well respected. Now, I'm not saying that isn't respectable. I love I'm a fiend. Oh, maybe not. But I love I do. Newsflash, Katiclyzm has I just gave myself the ick a little bit. Yeah, I love and everything that includes. But I don't think that I want to know that there are men out there that will do that and not see a problem with it. And I don't want to see you saying that it's okay that they think there's no problem with it, to be honest.
France, a couple from America, they were just bang average guys.
And if your older brother or your dad turned up to be one of those 101 men to have sex with someone like you, what would you think of them?
If they're single, it's their own free will to have with who they like, and all power to them.
And why do you think they all wanted to be anonymous?
I believe it's because a lot of them had jobs and family that they wouldn't want to find out that they do this, and I think that's totally fair.
Again, if you could acknowledge why they want to keep it hidden, because it's shameful, right? Then we can acknowledge that there's a problem. Like, don't get me wrong, you don't want to go into detail with your family and your friends that you're having sex, but I don't have a problem with people knowing I have sex because it's not shameful. It is inherently shameful. I don't care. I know shame is, I guess, objective. Shame is subjective, to some people, but it is inherently shameful to most people to queue to have sex with someone you don't know that's going to be posted, not caring that they have just loads of people and not considering how that might make her feel in the future, because that's the thing. Men don't care. Look at the comment section on videos that are having sympathy for her, like my video, where people are like, she deserves it, it's her fault, she signed up to it, women and their consequences. Men do not give a I'm sorry. Well, some men do, okay, but a lot of them don't.
You respect those men?
I do. I see them as regular men wanting to have a good time. I don't think too much deeply into who they are.
Do you think they respected you?
I think a lot of them did. Not necessarily all of them, but yeah.
And how did you know that the ones who didn't necessarily respect you didn't?
I think some of them disrespected my choice to have a time limit on us. And that was when I thought, you're not respecting this, that this is...
Which is crazy. And that is the scary part about sex work. I mean, think about all the sex workers out there that, don't have this level of protection, don't have the money for security, don't have the money for PAs to look out for them, and the amount of women that are forced to do horrible things that they don't want to do. It really is, and I have nothing but sympathy for the sex workers out there that are just exploited and stealthed and all of these terrible things that happen. It's insane. It's insane that we can sit here and say that it's a respectable thing for men to do when we know so many of these men are doing things like that. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. It's horrible.
Most of the reaction to what you did that day has been revulsion and also a lot of sympathy towards you. Let me read you some of the comments underneath the YouTube film. This is the best anti-film I've ever seen. This is self-harm. And I've never felt more protective over a stranger in my life. What did you make of the reaction to it?
Obviously, I really appreciate everyone's sympathy. I just wish we could have put that energy into someone who needed it. I really don't need the sympathy or the heartache or people being worried about me just because this is something I chose to do and this is my job, and it really is my choice, and I'm not being abused or made to do this or forced into it or anything like that.
a clip from that film of you crying after finishing having sex with all those men has been viewed millions of times on different platforms.
Great.
Why'd you say great?
Just because I'm an ugly crier.
Oh,
of course that part goes viral.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's truly crazy. To only be bothered that you're an ugly crier rather than acknowledge that you just cried in front of millions and billions of people because you were overwhelmed by what you had just done is also very telling and sad. Again, like, I respect the fact that you are fine with that, whatever, but I do think it just is quite scary to watch someone be so successful from something like this and just turn a blind eye to the fact that the industry itself has a lot of horrible things going on in it. And even if she doesn't feel like she is, you know, a victim to the industry, there are many victims to the industry. And when you see stuff like this, it's just shining this really positive light to say, hey, look, it's great. And that's just not the case for everybody. I'm halfway through. I'm like 10 minutes through. However, it's a 50-minute long video so far. I acknowledge it's been very ranty and stuff, but I just really wanted to like give my opinions on a lot more stuff. So I really hope you enjoyed. Yeah, if you've made it this far, comment. I'm going to do a iNabber and comment beans. Okay, that made me cringe. But yeah, I'm sweating. The flex. That's the flex for the people that are collecting me flexing. Hopefully one day I'll see an edit of all of them. Don't do it, that would be terrible. Don't do it, that would be terrible. Ew, Katie begging for an edit in 2025? Get out of here.